Back with another video. This video is going to be looking at Liverpool versus Leeds, which ended in a 1-1 draw in the English Premier League. So today, before we get started, as always, my book's out. The link is in the description below if you want to check it out. If you like tactical content, it'd be great for you. Also, Keyframe, the link is in the description below. That's how I made the second half of this video. And as always, the membership option will be in the description. That will guarantee you a free copy of my book and a lot of other awesome perks and exclusive content. So now, getting started, moving into the game. There's a lot of talk on the Super League that the big 6 clubs and 6 other big clubs across Europe have been talking about joining, and a lot of backlash, which I think is deserved. Just want to say that I'm strongly against it. I couldn't disagree with the decision more to go through with it, so I hope they find a way to punish the teams involved with this and put an end and a stop to any talks of a Super League. I just think it would be way more harmful to the teams, to the leagues, and the implications would go a lot deeper than I think many people realize. But let's get back to the video. Let's continue on with the video and check out the tactical setup from both teams. So as we start, Leeds built from the back using their center backs and Melier between them, and what they often did is they had their fullbacks just come a little bit narrow, so when Mane would be attracted to go and press, the long ball would be on, or the mid-range ball would be on to their fullbacks, and by doing this and having their fullbacks a little bit more narrow, it put them in closer proximity to their teammates to win the second ball and progress. Also, when Liverpool would shift via their midfield, Leeds would have numerical superiority. Now, going through the midfield third, it's important to note in the second half they did things a little bit different. The rotations of Phillips and his movement, I'm just going to show a couple here, but he often in the second half vacated the pivot area, and which gave Liverpool spatial control of this area, but then allowed Leeds to have progression through the wide area, which is a little bit safer of a progressive route, and it made it harder for Liverpool to transition, even though that's when Liverpool were at their most dangerous. So now, moving on, looking at the movement of Phillips, when he faded away to the weak side, it separated the Liverpool connections with Firmino, allowed Dallas to arrive in the blind side and use a third man movement to progress via the wide area. Now in the second half, we saw more use of a back three, fluid back three, with Phillips and Dallas dynamically occupying the pivot area and having a wide fullback, overextended Mane, giving them more space. Now, Liverpool in possession, Leeds went with their man-oriented approach, so when Firmino would drop, oftentimes it would be in the right half space if we're looking at from the Liverpool point of view. So Alioski would jump to pressure, giving Leeds still the +1 numerical superiority at the back, but created a lot of space, especially in wide areas, which put a lot of emphasis on Harrison and Costa to track Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold as their ability to get forward. Trent Alexander-Arnold spent a little bit more time deeper, but when he did get forward, it put a lot of stress on the Leeds wide players as well in covering this space. So as we see, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Harrison would then be the player responsible, and that's how their goal came. With Trent Alexander-Arnold advancing, Harrison tracking him, and just switching off for a slight second, which opened up a long ball opportunity, and Liverpool were able to take advantage of their players in the center. And now for the keyframe aspect of this video. We're going into the keyframe aspect, and we're going to look at Liverpool and how they got in behind Leeds, especially in the first half. So we have our Liverpool midfield 3 here, and we can connect them as well, just giving them a triangular shape. And then with players like Firmino and Jota varying their height, this made it very hard for Leeds, especially in their man orientation, to control the space in behind, as we see the very narrow front 3 and their interchangeability and their fluidity making runs in behind, as we see the Leeds back 4 is quite overstretched. They still have a +1 numerical superiority, as we see here, a 4 versus 3, but their spatial control is quite weak, especially higher up the field for Liverpool. And now we have Jack Harrison on Trent Alexander-Arnold, with Costa tracking Andy Robertson's run. So a lot of times Liverpool didn't use a deep lying playmaker as we've been accustomed to seeing, because their direct ball in behind was quite dangerous when Firmino would drop into this area, because it would allow them to make runs in behind and give them a dynamic superiority to match up with the timing and the runs of the passes, with Jota tracking Alioski and Firmino dragging out a center defender. The narrow front three could find this space in behind if there was time on the ball to deliver this pass. So now Leeds in possession in the first half. We see the narrow fullbacks with the two central defenders, and on the weak side also the more narrow, slightly narrow fullback. We have our midfield three, and what the wide fullback did is it allowed for a little bit more space into the wide area to then create one more diagonal passing option to the wingers, but it also put them in closer proximity to the Liverpool players. So when Liverpool's midfield would have to slide and press, it put them in a little bit more advantageous position to then arrive to the fullback and press them adequately. But when Leeds were able to escape this pressure, they were able to find the third man and often find the free player between the lines. As we see, it's Dallas here, just being blocked by the cover shadow of Milner because Wijnaldum just seems a bit late here in pressing. And with the Liverpool press with the narrow wingers and Firmino taking up the six, it also gave Phillips the opportunity to get positional superiority over Firmino and create a strong passing lane, which would then access into more advanced areas. Leeds in possession in the second half, we saw them use a little bit more of deeper fullbacks and a more asymmetric back four, creating a three-man central passing build-up structure in their first line to counter the Liverpool press and overextend their front three to then create space higher and in wider areas, as we see here. The free player is the wide player, and the advanced wide player, the right midfielder or the right winger, depending how you want to call it. With their narrow shape, we have our three midfielders and their front three all occupying the center corridor, leaving Leeds at a numerical disadvantage in this area. But when progressing through the wide areas, they would then find numerical superiority, and with their rotations, they would be able to then create advantages and progress via wide areas and then enter into the penalty area. The last picture now is just working off the tactical board diagram on how Leeds were able to manipulate the Liverpool press. So with Stuart Dallas becoming a fullback late in the second half, this gave them more versatility and entering into the middle three corridors when they were in possession, and it gave them more security in transition as well. But with Click coming on for Tyler Roberts, when Philip would drop to the weak side, Firmino would have his cover shadow focused on Phillips, which would then create the opportunity for Click to come and receive possession in the blind side and create superiority, and then give them access to the wide areas via the third man, as we see here. And with Stuart Dallas in the first line, it then overextended Liverpool's front three a little bit more as well, which opened up the game, which led to a more end-to-end game with a lot of chance. And that's the analysis, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned. Hopefully we can get the Super League to then fall through and all the teams will remain in the Premier League. But if a Super League does go through, I'm probably not going to make any videos about these clubs if they enter Super League competition. I will only make Domestic League and Champions League analysis and release information in these competitions. The Super League, I have no interest in making any videos about that or any tactical content concerning those teams if they do go through and join. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully you guys liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.